Okay, I got the stencil on and I'm ready to do this tattoo. I'll give you a little quick example of outline and stuff if you want. The yellow line is just what I use to replace the stencil and make sure it was all good and straight. It might look a little bent and curved now because I have her sitting in the chair and her arm is twisted, so I can have this video lined up properly so you can see it. But when she's standing up straight, it's where it's supposed to be. So. Alright, I have a 3-liner here for doing a really fine outline. If you remember how to set all this up from one of the other videos. Alright, now sometimes these stencils can be too dark, so whenever I'm tattooing I don't use anything during the process to wipe the person, but just straight water. Just normal water, no soap, no mixture, nothing special, no alcohol, nothing like that, just plain water or filtered or purified water if you want. But I put a little bit of just regular water on my paper towel, not a lot, just enough to wipe away the ink if I need to. If you use soap, it removes your stencil before you want, and it makes the skin slippery to get a hold of, because you want to get a hold of this and like stretch the skin, and you're going to hold pretty tight and be firm. You're going to want to balance your hand off of, you know, the edge of the person's body or your stand or something, you know, press down very firm. You know, you got a good hold of them. So let's give myself just a little bit more for my hand to rest on this side. Readjust the camera here. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and do the outline. First, to take some wet paper towel with just water, and I'll check a little corner of it first to see how well it's going to stick. It's going to stick pretty well. So I'm going to, especially because we removed it and put it on a second time. The more you do that, the harder the stencils are to get off and the more they stay. So I usually just give it one good pass like this, and it lightens it up enough to the point where I can actually see the difference between my outline and the purple stencil. And what you want to do too is, this will help when you're doing a fine line tattoo in any aspect, putting a little bit of Vaseline down on the skin before you start. What that does is helps the ink from splattering all over the place, so where it kind of stays beaded up, it makes it a little bit more, you know, easier and more visible. So we'll just, I mean, you're not going to put Vaseline on the whole thing, because Vaseline will start to deteriorate your stencil as well. So you only want to put the Vaseline where you're going to work in this immediate area. So I'm just going to do like the bottom for now. I'm going to try to not touch this until I get ready to do it. And you don't want a bunch of Vaseline, just dab it on there just a little bit, because if you get too much on there and you got too much of an area, it gets kind of hard to get hold on to the person too. They're kind of slippery. Fill up your reservoir with ink. I'm sure you figured out that already. Now, some people like to push their lines and some people like to pull their lines. Pulling the line makes it more fine. Pushing it makes it more thick and pronounced. But it really just boils down to which way you're more comfortable. If you'd rather push it, and you know that about yourself, then you use smaller liners. If you'd rather pull it, then you know you're going to use a bit of a bigger liner. And there's cases where you'll have to do one over the other just because of the physics of the tattoo and you know, being right or left-handed and where the person's sitting and all have you, what have you. Now we're gonna go, I'm gonna use I got about a 3mm stroke on this one because it's adjustable, but we're gonna go into the skin about a little like a quarter to half of the distance that needle's coming out. So we're gonna wanna let it hover over the skin just a little bit. You don't wanna actually touch the skin with the tube itself. Make sure you got the skin stretched this way and then this way too. So you're kind of stretching it both different directions. Not a lot, just enough that it's not going to bounce around.
I mean, a lot of people do it though. Like, I had a guy in here like about 2 weeks ago. Hairiest ass ever. And I had a tattoo nano. And I gotta get everyone's ass. That's the way it is.
You can see me resetting and moving my hands around. Now I also will plant my hands down, and I'm only going to tattoo what I can reach out of the dexterity of my fingers with that plant. If I can't reach it, I'm going to move my hands and plant in a different way. And then you can, when you're going to wipe, you want to kind of wipe away, down away from the tattoo. That's why you always want to start at the bottom and work your way up. And you don't want to wipe the whole thing. Just use like the corner and just wipe what you've tattooed and try to salvage the rest of the stencil. You don't want to wipe over the stencil any more than you have to.
Okay, at least you can pant, okay?
Dab a little bit more Vaseline on there.
I cannot.
And then we're going to come down through here and do this side.
You know, that isn't...
Outlining is going to be the most tedious, the hardest part. Shading stuff in is quite a bit easier.
Stuff barely even shows up. So ridiculous. Trust me, I've tried it. I've got like that tanning lotion that like browns that's on you or whatever. It's not even like an actual, it's like a self-tanner, but it's organic lotion.
And then keeping the Vaseline on it, you can really see exactly where your needle is at.
Yeah. Our youngest looks, yeah, I tried using that stuff and like it I don't know, it's too orange for me. Weird.